Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. So today I wanted to share with you a bunch of terms that we use around strategies, around integration. And I'm not talking about systems and operations necessarily, but I am talking about vertical and horizontal integration when it relates to a business. Now, this is something that a lot of MBAs learn about, a lot of people learn in business school, but a lot of entrepreneurs don't even know these terms exist. And I've heard them a lot recently on podcasts and things I've listened to, and I just made me realize, hey, I don't think you might know what that means necessarily because I haven't explained it before. So, if you don't know what horizontal integration or vertical integration are, welcome to the show. And I'm going to explain them to you. And hopefully, you'll be able to take these terms away, understand what they are, and understand how you could maybe integrate or incorporate these into your own business as well. So, first off, let's just fundamentally, what is starting with horizontal integration? Horizontal integration is when a company expands by acquiring or merging with a competitor or a business operating at the same level in the value chain. So that would be like a peer. So I'll use my own business as an example. Let's just say that Keep What You Earn Co. as a CFO practice wants to expand. It decides to buy another CFO practice. So it's kind of like, a one restaurant buying another, and you decide I want to horizontally integrate, meaning I want to extend my arms out and say, hey guys, let's all do business together at the same level. And, I can't explain the horizontal versus vertical. It makes sense to me, but the horizontal means like looking at your peers and saying, hey guys, let's do that. Now, here are some examples of horizontal integration that's actually happened. You might know that Facebook acquired Instagram, right? So, social media juggernaut acquires other social media juggernaut. And that was a big acquisition. Disney acquiring Pixar. So you have these other companies that are doing something similar, and you notice a lot of synergy. You notice that, hey, maybe if we work together and we actually team up, we can do something really cool. So this is where a lot of partnerships form, or there might be mergers and acquisitions that happen. This increases market share. It also creates a sort of scalability, an expanded customer base, and an enhanced brand. You may not even remember back when Facebook acquired Instagram, or maybe for you, that's just a core reality is that they're owned by the same company. But I remember when they acquired Instagram, and although we don't necessarily interact with the tools any differently, it's become a reality that this is just a giant company and Meta has just become huge. So that one pro is really that the immense growth potential of that. Now, that can come under scrutiny too, where there might be regulatory scrutiny, monopolies, and things like that. It also may be really hard to integrate the systems and tools that are used by both companies. This is really tough. I actually went through an integration or a merger just like this when I was at one of my companies, one of my corporate jobs that I had. And it was super tough because it was a merger of equals. So there was no like better than or surviving system that was identified. So if we had a system in place, like let's just say you acquire a business that's a peer of yours, they use a different CRM, right? It feels like this horrible rock, paper, scissors of whose CRM gets to survive and whose gets burnt to the ground. It's tough because operating with two CRMs is really freaking hard because you lose a lot of that synergy. You lose a lot of that brand power and that expansion. So you really want to have all your data in one place. So a downside of this is you have to merge two very distinct businesses that probably have different tech stacks. So that's tough. And you really have to then focus into a core market. I feel like when you expand horizontally, you're going to be concentrating more in a certain type of, niche market area, industry, and you're going to have to be really specific because you'll be able to expand who you serve in terms of maybe geography. by adding locations and people in other parts of the country, or maybe you're expanding and just adding more client base of people that you want to serve. But I think that to have a cohesive brand, your messaging also has to be cohesive, and you have to make sure that you're sticking to a core central message. So that's horizontal integration in a nutshell.
Hey, real quick, are you learning anything in this episode that you think is share worthy? Well, if you could take a quick screenshot and share any of your biggest takeaways or quotes from this episode, post it to Instagram and make sure to tag me at Shannon K. Weinstein and at Keep What You Earn. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Let's dive back in.
Now let's talk about vertical integration. So if horizontal is your peers, vertical is if you think about what's called the value chain, if you think about the value chain as a series of steps to get from, you know, a customer purchases to a customer gets their product or service, or even just, how the product gets to them. All of that is called the value chain. We talk about supply chain, and supply chain is just part of that value chain. So think about this, like, a value chain is kind of like an assembly line that goes down the life cycle and the customer journey. Think of it like that. So vertical integration is where you're connecting pieces of this journey together. In a sense, you are basically expanding by acquiring or merging with a business that's in a different stage of that value chain, like your supplier, a distributor, somebody that's upstream or downstream, we call it, from you. Now, in my business, that would be, acquiring bookkeepers. And I actually did something similar to this. So I decided to bring in bookkeepers full time because I knew that we needed to offer bookkeeping services in order for our CFO services to be stellar, to make success almost certain. We needed to be in control of the bookkeeping. So we decided to bring that in house. Now, what I could have done is either hired people in house, which I did, or I could have purchased a bookkeeping firm and said that bookkeeping firm is going to be doing all of the work for my CFO firm. And then I could purchase a tax firm and say all of my CFO clients are going to get their taxes done there. It's very similar. So it's also similar where let's say you have a restaurant, but you also buy a, you know, this shows you how how well versed I am in this value chain, but you have a restaurant, but you also have a distribution business. And the distribution business serves the restaurants. And you also have, say, honestly, you also have a payroll company. You also have an accounting firm, and that firm serves your restaurants. So you're almost saying, "Hey, who are the service providers? Who are the parties that create a dependency? So who am I dependent on? If I want to run a restaurant, who am I dependent on in order to do that? My suppliers, my distributors, maybe farmers, right? Maybe the liquor suppliers. You say, "Hey, could I start my own version of that or can I acquire a company that does that so that I don't really have to rely on a third party?" And this can be a brilliant strategy if you have the capital to do so and you're committed to running those companies. And I think that's a really key aspect of it. I'll give you another example. So, Amazon, when they acquired Whole Foods, this was an example of vertical integration because what they could do is they could then take Whole Foods and like the delivery aspects, they could put their, and by the way, they put their, I think they're called something different, but they're basically lockers. When you can get Amazon packages delivered, they have like the lockers in Whole Foods. So they made it super convenient to use those facilities for multiple use. And they basically integrated the supply chain by having the grocery and retail, the supply for the online grocer and the retail all come through the same channel. And I believe the other one that came to mind was Tesla, because Tesla started actually producing its own batteries for its own cars. So imagine if Elon Musk and Tesla had to rely on another party to do its batteries. If that company goes under, Tesla goes under. So to mitigate risk, they brought things within their control. And vertical integration is something that if you're kind of a control freak like me, you will probably dive down a rabbit hole of like, well, what else could I integrate? Like, what else could I take control of to mitigate risk? And at a certain point, you have to be really mindful about it because you have to be careful on stretching yourself too thin. And you have to be really clear about if it serves your overall purpose of what your business is trying to do. So if it's your core business is, let's say, the restaurant we mentioned before, you want to make sure that you're serving that purpose and you're integrating things that will actually lead to that outcome. So that's really key. So at the end of the day, you really have to be thinking about, does it make sense to acquire? Does it make sense to be acquired? Does it make sense to partner with? Does it make sense to even have a contract with other businesses that are in your value chain where you can connect and you can mitigate risks for each other and make it a win-win? Actually, a win-win-win. You, the other party, and the customer, because you're going to make it so much easier, so much more convenient, and so much more reasonable that you'll be successful. And so will the other party. So I would challenge you from listening to this episode to go back and think about the opportunities that you might have to integrate something vertically or horizontally in your business that would serve you and your customer better for doing it.
One of the best decisions I made in business that saved me countless headaches was getting expert advice in HR as I started growing my team. With so many compliance requirements, especially for virtual businesses, I could never get caught up on everything I needed to learn or I was supposed to do. That's where Jackie and her team at People Principles came in with their signature HR audit for only $349. But get this, if you use code Shannon50, you get $50 off of that. So it's only $300. You'll have peace of mind by the end of the week with this exclusive offer as a Keep What You Earn listener. Here's what's included: a step-by-step self-assessment, a 60-minute strategy session with their HR experts to ensure that you're in compliance and you have a plan for getting on track, an HR template to keep all this important stuff in one place, and a roadmap of the top 3 best practices to implement right now in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, use code Shannon50 to take $50 off of this assessment. Do not miss out on this opportunity or let unintentional HR mistakes derail your business growth. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.